Bugha outside of the zone. He's forcing him down low and getting him to expend his builds early, and this could be it with more damage from Agers going down. He is doing what he can to keep himself calm, cool, collected, and with every advantage of the book.
That's a study-worthy defensive play right there from Agers. He put everything he had to fend off Bugha and send him down low because he didn't have material, and he understood that. He allowed him to get close, the run was over, but now he gets a chance to continue to fight for it. Can he climb up? No, it doesn't matter. The zone does the rest, and Agers wins in the end.
He climbs the citadel, he puts on the crown, and he says, I'm the king of this castle, and just doesn't look back onto Bugha. And that is a big game for Agers, because you've seen them at the top of the leaderboard after that first game, and now imagine where that puts him on.
Yeah, just take a look here. The timing was immaculate. He comes in when no one else is really battling for it. It seems like the material count was starting to run thin and dry in the lobby, and just like that, he swings things around. Individually, goes from 4 elims way on up, pushing the team to the double-digit marks there. Bugha realizes, oh yeah, it's over. I don't have a runway to get out of here. And Agers wins the game. We haven't quite seen a win like that. We've got some very interesting 2 rounds so far, Fortnite.
Yeah, and I already kind of prefaced it just a little bit. Big opportunity for Agers and Kanata to shoot up that leaderboard and possibly take that first place point. But let's go ahead and find out for sure. I'm going to throw it over to Zeke and the gang to break it all down.
Yes, NA, yes! We are awake and there's chaos! My favorite time of the FNCS. Monster's right. I don't know that we've ever seen a game quite like this. We've seen games that end, you know, with terrain you can't break. But to come down like this, you know, Agers is sitting up there like, Acts of Champions, no, I'm the king! You give me my crown, I am the king of the castle.
It really showcases just how smart Agers is. You heard our casters talking about it, how he made sure to block out Bugha, play such an incredible defensive play there. But obviously, we got to start from the beginning. Of course, Kanata and Agers, right off the bat, had such a good control of that low ground, mid ground as well.
Yeah, and honestly, it all comes down to this 2v2 that we kind of saw happen on the second height, actually. It was Ritual and Reet that had high ground. They ran out of mats. They decided to make a play. Unfortunately for them, it was Kanata and Agers they were making a play on. Agers comes out on top of that and somehow just finds himself up on the high ground as well. So great awareness out of him. And listen, I've talked about it multiple times, by the way, how good this Mythic Flapjack is at applying pressure. And Agers just pretty much put that on full blast right there in this endgame, because that's pretty much where he got a majority of those eliminations from. And by the way, I mean, 8 by himself, that's incredible.
That's pretty good.
Pressure can be intense, right? Especially when you have something like that Mythic Flapjack. It just feels like, what do I do? Where do I go? I can't even build because there is a hailstorm of bullets coming my way. But again, Agers and Kanata, remember, not only looking for their spots globals, they're both looking for that Acts of Champions. They want to hold it high. Let's take a look at our standings, though. I want to see how things are going after 2 games.
I mean, with 13 eliminations and grabbing that first place spot, of course, they're going to be in first place.
Kelly,
but Bryson Chubbs actually did a pretty good job as well, and I love to see it Ritual and Re in 3rd place. And I actually was correct. Look at Queasy's socials. He is, in fact, coaching Ritual and Re.
Wow, interesting stuff, because I've seen Ritual and Re go for the Rift Island during week number 3, which is actually why I went ahead and put them in that top 10 to qualify for globals, because I like the way that they were playing. And that game right there, we saw them go for it, so I like that out of them.
Yeah, and Agers and Kanata, obviously, we saw them grab the objective for game number 1. But we have to talk about the king of Fortnite himself, Bugha, having an incredible run there in the solo, holding it down, making it to 2nd place. And unfortunately, when you get to the end game and there's a giant wall in your face, there's not much you can do.
I like the fact that you mentioned that he went on a great run this game because, yeah, he lands all the way at the bottom of the map, and we're all the way up at the Citadel. So a run is definitely what they had to do this game. But I talked about it. The experience is there. He knows how to make these type of rotations. And by the way, if you forgot, because he is so smart and good at the game, he also has the mechanics to back it up, which is why we saw him actually clutch out that 2nd place.
Yeah, lots of solo clutches again in this game. We also saw Epic Whale, who was a solo for quite a while, which is kind of funny because Clix was the one that was constantly a solo throughout the weeks. Epic Whale this time grabbing a few eliminations himself, although we don't yet see them in our top 10 leaderboard.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Before we take a look at our top 20, there's 2 things I want to point out here on the list. We'll come back to it. Just kidding. Bugha and Threats, 13th place, up 37 places. This is why you will hear me talk about this anytime we're talking about Fortnite. You don't know how it's going to end until that last game. One game moved them up 37 places. Imagine if they kept this consistency going and going.
I mean, they just might. It's Booga and Threats. They got 5th place last major. A lot of people, for whatever reason, I don't know, people like to say that Booga's washed, even though he has the best performance in the last 3 years together. And then once again, they proved it last major by getting 5th place. So he's just showing that he's still the king.
Let me just mention real quick, this 11th through 20th is actually crazy because everybody has the prediction list, and the names that are here right now, everybody would have suspected to be 100% in the top 10 by now. I mean, Aviv and Skittles, Acorn and Cold, Baka and Pars, Clicks and Epic. The list goes on, and for some reason, they just happen to be on this side of the leaderboard instead of in that top 10.
Yeah, if we just changed the number and said, yeah, this is your top 10, I'd be like, yeah, seems great to me. Absolutely, I believe you. We can't forget 19th place Clicks and Epic. Whale, of course, community hopes that these guys win it all. Now, I do want to kind of highlight here for a moment, some players are looking to refine their Storm Surge strategies, right? And Bucky and Okus, they have a little bit of a strategy that involves being really, really way up there, huh, Vivid?
Yeah, exactly. And before we dive a little bit into that Storm Surge, right, Bucky and Okus struggling
You
so
in my
far.
lobby,
We haven't
man?
seen them up on that Rift Island yet, and that's just simply because it hasn't spawned
Trash.
near them yet. They have a strategy that is pretty based around the fact that Rift Island can spawn in certain locations,
Trash.
and they're just kind of waiting for it to spawn near them, which is why we see Bucky build up here. But the reason this position is so good is because, well, look at this. He's built up. He's waiting for Rift Island to spawn, and he could just get so many Storm Surge tags at the same exact time.
Yeah, look at this tower, at what the view that they have of pretty much everywhere else. Unfortunately, their view, too, is how far away that island is. So that might be part of the reason why they weren't able to grab Rift Island.
And the reason we love Rift Island so much, outside of the points you get from it, the loot you get from it, but it's also a very high elevated piece of land, which is why you can see, hey, look, all these teams realize that Reet and Ritual kind of beat them to it, but they're like, you know what, let's still commit to it because it is such a good position for Storm Surge. We can see the likes of Acorn and Cold up here, Polo and Sphinx, Peterbot and Larson, like all of those top teams know that that Rift Island is still worth it to go up to.
It also gives a lot of these teams a great opportunity to rotate with those launch pads that's on Rift Island, so giving them an easy rotate into the next zone.
Yeah, and as we come back to the standings, one point I want to make really, really quickly. Take a look here at our top 10. Remember, top 10 at the end of the 2 days will go on to the Global Championships. Pollo and Sphinx here in 6th place. They already have their spot. So if everything stops right here, we say, well, you're in. It doesn't go to top 10. It now goes down to the 11th place to try and find another duo, right? Iamzo and Rise in 8th place. Another duo looking for their spot at Globals. This is, I feel like, this is going to come down. This is going to be coming down to the wire. It's going to be a nail biter.
Something I want to mention there, though, is that we do have those extra bonus points, and a lot of the teams in our top 10, I don't know if this is just an issue with the point system or something, but barely anyone on there has the weapons cache, so that's an interesting fact right there.
Oh, interesting. Listen, I'm looking for one of those Iamzo and Rise type games. So far, they have had to make pretty far rotations from their drop spot, and as you already know, they do have to hang around their drop spot to make sure that they actually capture that vault. So maybe the fact that they do have to wait around for it, they kind of got to wait to a zone pools at them to make it, the most worth it.
Here's to hoping, but I know what you want. It's more games. Our casters are standing by, so let's just jump back into it. This is more of the FNCS.
Yeah. Best players in the world here.
This is it. The last game before the halfway point on the day. And the last chance really to kind of hone your game plan, because the last 9 games throughout this tournament is going to have to be go time for these competitors.
That's right. Up at the top, though, Aegis and Kanata, 50 points ahead of the competition means that they are roughly a cushion, full game worth of across the competition, which is massive. Bryce with that 3rd place in the end game. Huge surprise. I didn't expect that one.
Yeah, a lot of our players that you didn't really expect are just rising up to the occasion and taking what they think is theirs. Game number 3 is ready, and will that trend continue?
Well, we're going to have to find out here. I can't see the future, neither can the competitors, so hopefully, to Vivid's point, Iamzo Rise get a little bit of zone favor. Seems like the last 2 have been a bit of a struggle for them to piece the puzzle together. Now, there are, of course, levels to this. There are early game battles happening everywhere. The last game, Thatch and Pamstu got contested a little early, I would say, gimped out of the loot that they were probably looking for, and it played out on the standings. They have fallen about 6 or 7 or so slots down to that 2nd page when they were up inside of the top 3. Here's Chubbs and Bryce. He's been competing for close to 3 or 4 seasons now, back to back to back. It's well over a year of partnership. We talked about this early fight. Pamps and Thatch seemingly unlucky at this time as they get contested, but another team comes in and Defiable fights back. And already now, they have rocketed their way up as he just completely decimates Broken there, who had, I don't know what kind of game plan idea, but it didn't work out.
I'm still just shocked. I think Scissor just got back-to-back mammoth shots to open up the first 2 eliminations over at Frenzy Fields. Down went Pamso, down went Thatch. I just can't believe what I witnessed. Sometimes all it takes is that one opportunity. Knifer and Snacky, a little bit of replay of how getting their games warmed up. You've seen them win off spawn in game 2, and
Drum
they repeat
shotty.
that here in game 3.
Nero and Cooper looking solid here as well. 86 points to start things off. Slappy Shorts uncontested, but they have somewhat of a visitor who's sniping away some of that southern loot.
Interesting to see how long they'll kind of let that last. I think they don't really have too much of a say. Teammate is probably even more south, a little bit of a split drop between the two to try to give them as much chance to get the best loot as possible. Kanata and Agers over towards the racetrack. A little bit of Yamato and Rise kind of sneaking into their territory, trying to gobble up some of that loot as well. And that's just kind of the name of the game. If you're daring enough to cross into somebody else's loot pad and take a loot, then why not?
And Agers
Game
helping
3 of
pad
12
the
in North
records of
America.
Kanata. That game 2
is
officially his
Kanda's
12th
12th
victory
victory
out in a grand
royale
finals.
in a
If you
grand
take a look at the
finals.
history
Pretty
of Kanata's grand finals
Pretty
performances, he has maybe only
Tryhard
once
City.
in a major fallen outside the top 10, but I could be wrong. I think he actually has 0
Flicks, he's a
outside of the
known
top 10
streamer.
performances, but hasn't quite gotten the championship just yet. So that's, of course, what he's fighting for.
Yeah, and, you know, at this point, I think Kanata says it's not enough to just make it to the grand finals. It's all about committing and winning it all. As Epic is actually going against said Kanata over on the
Trash.
distance. An early game skirmish between the two that you wouldn't have necessarily expected. But with Kanata dropping down,
Trash.
he probably has in the back of his mind, it's too early to fight.
Yo.
Got to go ahead and drop off. But what they're fighting for right there, Monster, wasn't loot at all. It was
Yo.
that position on the mountain for Storm Surge.
You calling
That's the
trash.
thing, landing at Mega City, landing towards the racetrack. You don't always get the best chances
Oh, I
for
thought
Surge.
you meant this dude was in my
The real
lobby.
question is, if Kanata rotates out, is Epic Whale going to give him a hard time? Have to find out. Here's back with Bully and G-Money. This is a fight that we, of course, seen last game not end in the favor of Bully nor G-Money and everyone else, as Bugha, of course, has jumped in with threats, and they're doing the same exact thing right here. The map is telling us that they're edging their way closer and closer, since this fight is going to continuously break out every single game. I talked about it. For Bugha, like his entire history of FNCS games have been built around great strategy. He just builds a good strategy. He puts himself in an uncontested POI outside of where other players are fighting, and then just farms them.
Yeah, and this is exactly why. If you guys watched the earlier games on EU, Steamy Springs was quite uncontested almost altogether because of the two
Bugha.
massive mountain ridges that kind of encapsulate Steamy Springs.
boy.
It's a very, very risky thing to put yourself into game after game, and you can see Bugha just, the awareness is just amazing. He goes ahead and sneaks in while they're fighting, realizes they disengage, backs up into the same position they were in before just to tag these players for Surge. They know exactly when to go forward and when to slow things down.
Yeah, everyone here and now making those micro adjustments, but for Nasen and Deja, they of course feel like this is a fight that they can win, so they're starting to put the pressure back on, which inevitably starts turning the gears of threats in Bugha. They also turn their attention back into this area here, but let's jump in with Pledges putting shots down onto Blake and Macwood. Macwood already finished here. Blake's are solo. He's in between Zeus and Jylix. Has not been looking too good for them here. They've been on the losing side of the fight for the last 2 games here.
I think Blake was ready for this, especially kind of listening to his interview. You know, the potential for that third party, even fourth party, because last game it was Penta and Teeks. This game it's Zeus and Jylix, and you can see more players towards the south of Lonely Labs even having some exchanges, a little bit of words they have for one another. But See, the fight is for that capture point overall, which has already been taken by 20 and Pledge, as they continue to try to put that pressure onto their opponents, but they can only do so much because he only has 9 medium bullets left in his Flapjack. Now he switched on over to his Mammoth, and this is where he's going to take his time and try to finesse the situation.
No, but instead he goes in, looks for the shotgun opener, and he gets exactly what he wanted. That's another shield crack. This officially puts him at 2 for the game. Rolled up. That's his wall. What's he going to do about it? The hesitation, misses an opportunity to find a huge tag, but he doesn't quite have the shield, so not looking to be predictable here. Gets his teammate, of course, 20, putting the pressure on. The shots here from the opponent looking good. Come on, Pledge. You only need one more, son. Can you hit it? It doesn't look like he's going to find that chance, so he backs out.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to be careful. Even though they do have Zeus on very low HP, potential for Jylix to pop off. And kind of back-to-back one-shots, depending on what he has in his inventory. Yes, both a Havoc and a Mammoth. So, in theory, it'd be 2 quick one-shots. Takedown with 20 and Pledge. And that would kind of call it game for them as they continue to fight for that piece control. You can see Pledge just getting out of there along with 20, reuniting in the same box. They realize it's not worth it at this stage because they have no shields, and they realize the dangers that they're putting themselves in if they continue to stay in that position.
Yep, that's it. Smart disengage here. No reason for them to stick around. We all know that when you don't have the shields, you've already kind of lost your surprise advantage, and you've given the team a chance to bounce back. There's no reason to stick it out. So, I commend them for continuing to play the game on and trying to look for other opportunities to bounce back.
Yeah, you can see what Cooper and Miro, they land towards Slappy Shores, a little bit of contested. Now they're looking in the distance. Miro by himself. That's Job Piece and User. They've already taken down both Teeks and Penta at the start of this game, so they got double the loot. So they can fight it if it does come down to it. And Miro knows not to bite off more than you could chew at any occasion. He's just trying to get out of there. He knows Miro is watching his back as well. So a little bit safe for him kind of rotate in the open like he is, because if they peek on the other side, that's when Miro will come in.
Yep. It's a very smart play. Cooper and Miro, of course, lining up for one another. Here's Batman Booga. We haven't seen their early game just quite yet. We know this Mega City's an interesting one, of course. In the past, there's been success of playing these high city areas, but right now it's a little more difficult to do.
Because they open the vault, they get 3 points for their total on the side of Batman Booga and Rapid, plus all that loot that they just gained, trying to give themselves a much better end game. Gonna jump on board with Notch and Wavy Jacob.
Yeah, very, very cool to see competitive continue to evolve, the new ways to earn points.
Yeah.
These objective-based opportunities outside of course, playing well, making it to endgame, finding your eliminations. Speaking of which, if Wavy Jacob had a Mammoth pistol right there,
doing lights out.
I don't know who he was shooting at for a second, but it wouldn't have been nice.
So if you have a loadout, are you taking triple heals or are you taking the Mammoth?
I'm going triple heals, shock, and Mammoth. I do like the loadout. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I've seen a few players run that already, and it kind of be fruitful because you got the distance from the Mammoth.
This is, of course, keeping in mind if I also had the skill set of a professional player. That's like my disclaimer. Now, if I'm just regular me, no. I'm doing the Ager strategy. Give me the tactical spam. Give me the AR. You know, all that good stuff.
I might even take 4 heals.
That's another take on it, for sure.
What you need, Rise? What you need, Eams? I got a little bit of everything in my back pocket. One of the teams that everybody looked at as the favorites to take it all. They had the most top 5 finishes of any duo during our weekly finals. A total of 8. 2 different first places in week 1 and week 2 as well. Really set the standard going into this FNCS.
And hey, look, right now they're in 9th, right? Their first game netted them inside top 6, which is a very great performance. Last one, not as great, but still very good. They're in the conversation. They can keep up that pace. It'd very well be just consistent enough to end closer to the top to win this whole thing.
Let's see what time it is now. 3rd zone. Rift Island coming up shortly as everybody is just kind of eyeing, trying to see exactly where it's going to be positioned at. Is it something worth fighting for? You can kind of see it. I know it's very, very small, a couple of pixels. The edge of the zone is in this direction. So we are going to keep moving towards the west overall. Kind of centered up when it comes to it as Muzz and Paper, trying to learn from past games' mistakes. Continue to put the pressure on, build up that Storm Surge, because in the finals lobby that is this stacked, you don't want to be lacking on Surge, forced to jump into somebody's box in which you otherwise wouldn't.
Speaking of which, Aiden and Hound had that exact problem last game. They were taken out by the Storm Surge. This game, the adjustment's been made. Steamy Strings is a full-on fight here against Deja. Jumps into Deja Vu's box and takes him out. Down goes Day there. Well played, Aiden and Hound. I like to see this. I like to see the adjustments. I like to see, hey, we made a mistake last game. We're a little too passive. Let's go ahead and you know, make that difference. Let's go fight a team in the mid game. We absolutely should find one. And when the chance presents itself, all of a sudden here, they were just running through Nossen and Dead.
Spraying in through the builds. They know if... I don't think they have the potential to one-shot on the other side, or at least for now. The longer they stay in the zone, that potential is slowly, surely going to rise. So Aiden's just doing what he can. Not too many heals left between the two, so they're going to force to use their slap splashes. At least that's going to give them a lot of time to kind of sprint, get into a better spot if they can disengage, because you could see a third team is rotating, and they're going to beat them to the punch and possibly hold them out later in the game.
Everything looking pretty red right now. Fresh builds everywhere. Can they break through it? Don't quite find them, and Aiden and Hound have somewhat lost the steam here. I wonder if they're deciding they want to get out right now. Nossen ratting through the builds. Yep, pretty much tells them, man, let's go ahead and move on out. They find a team off in the distance here. Nossen now doing exactly what any sneaky player should do. Make it that much more difficult. Now those Medmis heals there are going to get the visual to, of course, Aiden and Hound. That might have been a small misplay, but we'll see.
I can only stay on this side of the zone only so long before it's almost a net loss for both of them. So continue to push in, and for Bryson Chubbs, it's very, very great to see them doing so well up into this point, especially with a lobby full of household names. But I'm going to throw it on over to SPG to show us how are they doing so well in these games.
I was questioning that myself, Jacob, so I went in and watched and saw what they were doing. Instead of farming materials, they're getting just wood and brick early on, and then they're going to try and play for their combat cache. They're focusing Storm Surge early, playing for that combat cache for the metal, and that's leading to their success. These guys are crushing it right now, and expect to see more from those two.
Thank you so much, Somebody's Gun. And Chubbs and Bryce are, of course, in second place right now, based off of their last two game performances. The first was just a overall balanced performance. The second was a huge top 3 finish with a couple eliminations, which is exactly what you're looking to achieve here in a day one type of performance. But all right, let's get back over here, the place where everyone wants to be. Peter Bart and Lawson are one of the few teams to go and start claiming up the Rift Island that, of course, bounces its way around the town.
Did you give him your strategy? We talked about the loadout. Now he has the Monster D-Phase loadout.
That's the good one right there. That's where I want to be.
This is what it would look like if either one of us were probably good at Fortnite, but...
I'd just easily walk around the corner like Chubbs. I'd see a team fighting. Ding! Bye-bye, D-Gen. That's exactly what I would do. Just like that. Not even D-Gen can stop me.
That's exactly what SPG was talking about. They're not necessarily farming up. They're farming players for Surge, and they're stealing their loot away, because when we last saw him going for that weapon cache, he had little to no metal. Now he has over 400. Bryce probably has the same. The only worry for me in their game plan is their Storm Surge. With the way they've been using the Mammoth pistol, it's almost not too much of a worry for me.
You know, I put a little thought into my replay package, the caption on the bottom. It's so easy, even a Fortnite commentator monster could do it. Just like that.
Giving me confidence now. Not to play some games right after this, as Clicks and Epic, well, playing a little games. And now they repay for it just a little bit, but you can see right now the importance in which the order he's using it. Instead of using the Slurp Juice to get HP and shields, he realizes those are important later on in the game where you don't have time to pop a big pot, when you don't have time to pop the minis, and you're forced to run. So it's very, very imperative, if you have the option, to save those as long as possible.
Definitely. You want to min-max at every opportunity possible. That's why even, you know, as early as time, we've seen players do exactly what Japisa and User are doing here. Not quite finished trees, right? When you break them all the way, the little, the dust that kicks up the tree grass, right? The animation, you can see they're not even breaking the trees. So there are little steps that you make to start becoming a min-maxer, right? Like our professional players are. Really doing everything in their power to play their best game possible. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and they picked a good spot out of the zone as well. You see how many players are congested on this side. Everybody else on that right side of the map doesn't have too many players to run into because that's exactly where the zone was pulling. This is the first time it pulled towards the west from where it's at. So positioning has to be perfect, and you can see Acorn and Cole just eyeing players into the distance. Little do they know, it is Clicks, it is Epic Well. So it won't be as easy of a target as they might possibly think it is at the moment.
Not at all. We've already seen Clicks and Epic Whale take on Kanata this game. We didn't quite tune back in with Kanata or Ager, so I wonder if they made it out or what their surge situation is looking like. Because right now we have Bryce and Chuck who clearly are having a bit of a problem here. 86 below the surge threshold. This is the first time we've seen them have a difficult time in a game this early. They are in second, so there is no time to waste here. Can't lose the momentum. Gotta be careful though. The edit was open. It's a double peek. We all know you don't do that. But of course, he has Chubbs here to back him up. They end up coming in, finding a few tags, and another one to follow up. It's Snacky here.
Not only were they fighting multiple players, multiple teams, they were fighting against Storm Surge, and I got your answer. I saw Agers in the feed. They are alive. I don't know if they're well, though, so don't quote me on that one. As Bryce and Chubb, they just continue to whittle away at opponents, but they're working with that Storm Surge line. They were above, now they're below. They went above, and they just need to continue to stay proactive. The thing is, now they have to fight against Surge while rotating across the map, because this is going to be a drastic pull.
And normally I'm against the team trying to kill it out and letting the rest of the lobby determine whether or not they stay alive here. So I like that they're fighting right now. I think it is the better play.
Where are you?
Something tells me that maybe it's better to just rotate and just see what happens. Take your chances this time around. And there it is. More tags come in from the distance. Bryce is hurt. Chubbs is hurt. They do have a lot of heals. I'm about to use it. Don't lose it philosophy, but they're risking it all here to try and get safe right now. And it is so far working.
Trying to use the mud while he does have it. He has to try to get as quick of a rotation. His toes touch the water, though. The mud goes away. He doesn't have time. He didn't have time. He needs to go more towards the right. That's where the zone, in theory, is moving just a little bit slower. And at least I like the thought. He knew he was going to go down. He knew he was lost. He was just trying to get some damage. That way Chubbs has a better chance of survival. But with nothing being grabbed, a turn and burn out of nowhere coming in from Ritual like a lighthouse. They gave away their position.
And that's exactly what we were emphasizing on right there.
It's starting to get tight. Woo, look at all the players still. Everybody's at a storm and
See
shit.
what happens there, but let's jump in with Boyo and Sphinx here. 2 eliminations.
Oh, you
so
tore
far.
up.
Surge that show still has pretty decent amounts of material, but you can tell a struggle of the game has been had.
Oh,
no
my
heals
God.
here. Already through half of that heavy map. And Sphinx gets punished big time. There goes the minis coming out of Sphinx. Do they have any kind of slurp juice here? Any kind of big white heal? They don't. Instead, they're looking into the augments. What can they find here? Nothing.
Hopefully, I'm thinking they might have Splash Party in their back pocket, but if they don't,
Maybe
because
the
then
bush
they would
bird.
use it.
I don't know. There's
Maybe shrub mud, give them the mud.
Is this gonna start soon? What the fuck's going on here?
The part for me is every player in this lobby now has to be thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, because where the zone is pulling, it's on the edge of a mountain. If that one continues to climb,
is this gonna start soon?
Players that didn't save
Or
some
what?
of those resources, or at least think about what's going to happen here in the future. The Poyo and Sphinx, I don't even think they have the luxury to think that far ahead, because right now they're thinking about how are we going to get heals, how are we going to get the siphon, how are we
I don't get it. Where's the game? Am I in the wrong place or what?
So close to finding exactly what he's looking for. A big knock, potential headshot here. Most of the players he's targeting don't really have as much HP.
Probably did.
There is any kind of opportunity that can open up here, but this is all going down here. It's a great time to continue to catch up, as Ritual and Rhea, of course, have been continuing their fight too. They find Epic Whale. Look at this. No clicks nearby. Slide on in, get inside the box, finish it up. D-Roller's there, hurt as well. They just continue to march their way on through.
They're decent performances from Clicks and Epic Well. That shutdown is going to put a little bit of a speed bump on their road to the top as Kanata just over peaks. It's Reet and Ritual yet again. Ager's wasting no time getting Kanata back up, and that's a huge plus. Unfortunately enough, he's going to be stuck at 150 effective shield and HP. That's Kanata, who actually got that last shot on the Reap before he goes down as they continue to ride that wave of momentum. They're already in first place by about 50 or so points, and they're looking to extend their lead. This is a 2-day competition, and it's very, very important for them to not play with their food at this point in the game.
That's absolutely true. Take a look at this play here. Make sure they put those slab juices down there like, hey, look, we have a long rotate to make. I know we're at max health, but I'm trying to get there. All the stamina they need to make a really good rotate. Ooh, they find Clarity G right behind them. Little do they know, that's big competition right there. They have the elims, they have the tags they need. It's all about getting safe now.
Everybody just trying to run as fast as they can. Miro from one spot to the next. Miro, those shots are very, very important because now he's going to get a little bit of speed boost with every shot that he does hit as he continues to just run in front of everybody else. You don't want to get stuck behind. One of the farthest pulls he's been granted with only 16 HP. He can't even take too many ticks of the zone, but it's actually in the distance. A player who takes him down, sneaks that shot away.
All the credit to Miro there, recognizing, like, listen, I know this is a solo on my tail right now. We're just a tag away from getting those extra points.
One kill.
Unfortunate. Bugha and Threats find themselves in the high ground. Wait a second now. Really, really changing up the script here after game one.
Big opportunity for them, but again, these pulls, these zone pulls, you have to be careful because those mountaintops, they kind of cave in. They get even higher. It's just like a roller coaster ride that these players are going to have to go through. Rise and Yamzo, they probably sense that, and they're sticking to the game plan.
Look how small the circle is on the little map over there. All the players combined are
on the
one
low
little
ground.
circle. Holy
And they're
shit.
setting themselves up if a lot of these players try to fight for any bit of elevation. This Cold and Acorn, they're trying to figure out what's next for them. Plenty of slap splashes to not only heal up, but give themselves that little bit extra on the tactical sprint as their only mobility.
Other big teams are show up right now. Paper is still in this game. I caught a glimpse at Baka and Pars. Let's not forget what they can do. They let loose. Peterbot still alive right now. The big disruptor here finds a solo underneath and tries to find a tag. Doesn't quite connect. There's just stomping happening everywhere. This is the elevation we talked about. It is now quickly declining right off the high ground here on into some new low ground territory. Peterbot has to make a move here.
Doing such a good job, almost going through unnoticed until he becomes a focus of not ultimate high ground, but a couple layers up ahead, and some of those shots are going to go through. Peterbot already has 5 eliminations. The possibility to pop off and pick up a siphon is looming around any corner. And he knows there's one team behind him, but it's Yamzo. It's Rise, and a huge 122, but they try to break into the box, and they make that one look easy as they take down Peterbot.
Definitely a big finish right there. Brings them on up to 121. Bugha and Threats still chilling on the high ground here. Coasting alongside. Meanwhile,
look at all the builds, man. That whole circle is full of builds.
To the hands of Duke there. Big tag here to counter fire back. Heals have to come through. There it is. Picks up a little bit of material. Yes, some time, but not much to work with. What's the play here? Yeah, I was going to say, why wait? You really have to get going. He tries to wait it out to get any kind of extra points possible. Age is now in 70% HP here. The big edit comes in from the low ground. Little does he know, you just sneeze on him, and he's going to fall. No more mats, that's it. Agers might have to think about breaking down or sliding across. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Instead, he's going to walk. Nice and slow, goes for the 180. Doesn't find a tag, though. Instead, it's Cold and Acorn here, cooking on the mid-ground. Player on the left side. Cold makes the edit. He is just so clean with it.
Yeah, it's Baka on the other side that landed that shot. Cold healing up, getting ready to try to gain some elevation. Only a few teams left in this. Batman, Bugha, and Rapid are trying to beat him with a punch on the other side. With the Kings at the top of the castle, Bugha and Threats are just eyeing every opponent below, waiting for the moves to be made as Baka finally goes down. Acorn picks up that elimination, and now we get into our final 4.
A little big problem here for Threats, though. He doesn't have any AR ammunition. Can't get any from Bugha either, so it's running thin on the high ground. Bugha on the low ground, but no, Batman Bugha falls down. Acorn finds another one too. They're just cleaning up house here, and Cold has been taken out. There goes the finish. That's exactly what he needed. Goes back on over and just a little bit better than Gilix. They're smarter with the movement and Threats. Like we said before, he barely had anything. It's going to come down to the shotgun play. Bugha finds one, back-to-back their second and now first place finishes.
Yeah, and right now you can kind of go ahead and think all the way back to when the game started. All those mammoth shots from Bugha to build up the storm surge. They were able to smoothly sail to the high ground, and from there, they just let the entire lobby do all the heavy lifting for them.
Hey, take a look. Look, right here. Bam, they had that high ground. We were already starting to begin the conversation. Hey, is it worth playing from this high up, down off the elevation? They decide, hey, you know what? We're going to take our chances. It bounces back, and the moment it does that, it was everything that they needed. And it really could have gone any other way, though. There was no medium bullets, right, on this high ground team here. Threats and Bugha really had to go down there and play together when typically you send just one player down. So hopefully,
yeah, a little bit of a quiet game, but at least they solidified it with the victory royale. But Kanata and Agers have lasted long yet again. We know they're in first. It's almost looking like a battle for second place. But I'm going to go and throw it over to Zeke and our analyst to break it down and show us that leaderboard.
Game number 3 has come to its conclusion. That means we only have 3 more games before we call day 1 done. Whew. Now, I like what I liked about this game. Bugha and Threats, they're playing height like last season. Remember the kinetic blades? Remember how high you could get, how easily you could contest high ground? You had to build up past a certain layer. Bugha and Threats are like, why don't we just do that again?
Well, it definitely helps that they also had that big hill towards that ninth zone to be able to build up on for height. So I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing it. It wasn't a callback to the last season.
Or was it?
Helps that they have that big hill. Helps that they have the big brain Bugha on their team. I mean, I honestly can't believe how well they have done in game number 2 and game number 3, considering how far north they have actually had to come. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be surprised because I've been talking about how experienced he is with those long rotations, but this was just clinical stuff. I mean, NA has been searching for high ground authority, a high ground identity, and the fact that Bugha and Threats are taking advantage of it in this game means that I'm excited for the ones to come.
I also think those rotations allow them to get Storm Surge, and by able to getting easy Storm Surge, they're able to hold those heals, and that's exactly what we saw in the end game right there. So it's actually kind of helping them and benefiting them, unlike what we've seen before, where the middle teams in the middle of the map have kind of had an easier go at it. It seems to be a kind of a flip situation.
Yeah, the meta within the meta of the competition itself, that's what we typically see during Fortnite competition. Of course, what I like to see, those standings. Let's take a look together. I want to see how things are unfolding here. 3 games down, 3 more to go. Who sits at the top? Of course, Agers and Kanata. I'm not surprised. Real quick tip, if you have not seen it yet, go to social media and look up Kanata's reaction to winning his game. You won't be disappointed. Now, of course, friends, 234 points. Vivid, what's the math between first and second?
It's going to be 73.
Thank you, Vivid. Quick math. That's what he is here. My gosh, a massive lead. I thought the lead in EU was nuts. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know, I was worried, okay? All week, right, I've been doing the prep work. I've been watching the VODs. I'm like, you know what, listen, I think Kanata and Agers are going to be the ones to win it. And then I found out yesterday that they're going to be contested. And I'm just like, man, like, really? And now they're uncontested and they're at the top of the leaderboard, and I'm ecstatic.
And I'm just grabbing so many eliminations as well. It's not just the fact that they're making it to the end game time and time again, but they are just controlling this low ground. And they're doing it not by staying at the front of zone, which is what we typically see, but staying behind everyone. And yes, it could be a little risky, just like what we saw from Kanata dropping right there. But when you got Agers on deck, he's going to be able to hold it for a little bit, getting 6 eliminations in that game.
You know what? You were just talking about, right? The meta within the meta of the lobby. We haven't really seen much from Yams on Rise, and usually we see them dominating on the low ground. But right there, we saw Kanata and Agers get a lot of their points that game from the low ground. And honestly, you got to kind of think about it. If Yams and Rise were alive in that end game right there, maybe they would have played a factor in shutting them down a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and we can't forget, this is a duo that is looking to try and make a spot in Global Championships. Remember, they just barely missed out back in Major 1. So for Yams and Rise, they would love to just close out Grand Finals. Not only that top 10, but if they could also go as far to get the overall win, that would be huge.
And it's pretty crazy because we're not seeing too different of a strategy from what we saw in the earlier weeks. They're able to utilize their early start. They're able to grab that vault, able to get those points, as we can see with the Mythic Flapjack right here. They don't have as many heals as we've seen before, so I'm wondering if they're having issues grabbing all of those combat caches. But still, not the worst game that we've seen from them yet. Going down, I believe, in 8th place in this game, so doing all right.
Yeah, I mean, still got to, find their stride. And like I mentioned, want to see them on that low ground dominating with those pressure rifles that they have. But that zone pulled a little bit more towards OPOI, and I'm excited because they were able to actually make it into the end game, which is what I mentioned. Their drop shot can be a little iffy sometimes when it makes those far rotations.
I also do want to remind everyone that we talked about this at the start of the show. Eomzo and Rise are notoriously lackluster in day one. We've seen them get, I think, 13th and then 9th place in days one. And then after that, day two is where they come out of the park swinging.
Absolutely. I just keep looking at this list and just look at these names, man. Booga up 11 places. And I like that we kind of talked about Eomzo and Rise. We can't forget they're now climbing up that top 5. But look just below, Acorn and Cold, a duo that already have a spot to global championships. Remember, maybe you're just tuning in, you missed out. If a duo, we're looking for the top 10 to move on to global champions. If a duo that is already qualified ends up in that top 10, we're then shifting down a spot. So this could be both kind of good, but also kind of bad.
Whew.
Yeah, but I mean, like, listen, top 10, Muzz and Paper are finding themselves up in there. Kind of an underrated duo this season. I'm excited to see them performing today because, you know, Muzz, we've talked about it multiple times, the 3X, it would be so cool to see him at Globals.
Especially because he has the Oceania champions, he's got the NA East champions, so being able to win NA Central, would that make him a 3 regional winner? Does that count?
I make it a 4.
Sure.
Technically in a...
We'll say here right now, yes.
Okay. That is the vivid seal of approval. Okay, so now halfway through the competition, how are we feeling about the competition so far? I feel like one of the things we're noticing is a couple duos seem to be dropping Mammoth pistols, right? We're seeing duos go for height. They're prioritizing the flapjacks. We've seen less of Mammoth pistols. Why do you think?
True, and honestly, I think I noticed this the most actually in week 3, and now that's just transferring over into grand finals. And I got to give a big shout out to that strategy because Eomzo and Rise were the ones that, you know, were carrying those mythic flapjacks into the end game. I feel like a lot of these teams, VOD reviewed them, saw how much potential it had in the end game to kind of just ruin every other duo's game in that sense, and then just pick up so many eliminations off the back of it that a lot of other teams have been like, you know what? Let's do the same.
And that's what it's about. It's about the potential. When you come down to the end game, you want that flapjack to just tear down through builds. You, of course, are going to need the Havoc Punk to be able to eliminate players quickly. And when you get to the end game, the Mammoth isn't going to be as utilized as it is in the early to mid game, grabbing those Storm Surge tags.
I love it. I love it. The way we watch Fortnite evolve game to game. And to think we still have 3 more to go. How much more could we see change? How much more could we see change into tomorrow? The possibilities are absolutely endless.
I mean, I don't know about that. I think there's like a limit to the changes, possibly.
I'm still looking for any of these duos to kind of really like find their stride. I feel like we haven't seen anybody perform the strategy that they thought they would consecutively throughout the first 3 games. So I'm still looking for those pop-off performances that we know that this level of caliber player can do.
We've already seen 4 teams try and take Rift Island. I want to see 7.
Okay.
Wow, 7. All right, speaking of lucky number 7, none other than our casters ready to go. We are now about to hit game number 4. Guess what? Give a big welcome to Monster D-Face and the best dancer I've ever seen, Jacob PR.
This is where I catch the mic and Jacob would have did a dance. I was wondering if he was, but it looks like we're gonna keep things a little chill up here. We're moving into game 4. Hit him with the bot chop, that little Spanish sauce there. But what are we looking at right now? Canada Agers, of course, starting to really take off here.
Yeah, I feel like this is something they've been alluding to in their game plan. I talked about them in one of the pieces that Fortnite put out. Progressive placements through the weekly finals, 8th force, and that eventual first. And that's just confidence. That's just building on the blueprint in which they set out. And I feel like game number 4 is going to be no different.
Well, let's watch it. Let's see if it's all going to happen here. And now, this is finally, again, something a little different here. The bus is starting to split across the opposite direction. We're on the back half of the games here. Let's see it play out. If you're up at the Shady Stilts, the Breakwater Bays are pretty happy right now. They're going to have that additional opportunity to get upgraded loot early on. Should allow them to speed up their rotate strategies here, but I mean, already, this is where you're really starting to run thin on your opportunities to try something differently. Pamsu and Fatch are one of the few teams that literally have to start figuring it out because other teams have decided, you know, they just want to contest, man. They're jumping in early.
This looks close. This looks close. Defiable's been the one contesting them right out of the gates. Defiable beats them yet again. I say this, I might sound like a proud dad, but the NA West boys are really showing up big, but I might have cursed them. Down goes Defiable. Scissors trying to make up for it with only a flapjack. Fatch is going to go ahead and back up. But Pamsu is there. He has the big threat. He has that Havoc shotgun, and he has the pressure that he's able to put down.
And up top, the heals already come through. The down comes in as well. And of course, the materials get released afterwards. Pam still has a full rounded loadout here. Finds a big tag. Okay, that could just be enough though. He sets the stage to be nice and even here, but Virgo is in, gets the full finish. Broken gets tagged from the side now. And oh my gosh, this is just gross. The fight that's happening right now is so bad for everyone involved. If you are inside the actual barn, you just might not make it out.
Even if you started out, you get taken out. Pamphlet,
no.
Broken and Virgo, they're going to go ahead and stand tall, but it's cold. I told you, those two people towards the right of Frenzy Fields, they split up just a little bit, Acorn and Cold, but they peek in this direction because they know how contested it actually is. And Kanata, he said, nah, Epic, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm beating you to this elevation. I'm beating you to my position, and I'm claiming it as my own.
That's right. You would think maybe you would say, okay, yo, game 2, there was a team there, an extra one, 2 teams there. Then we go somewhere else. But no, they continue to stick it out there. It's going to be tough, I think, from here on out if something doesn't change. Just take a look at Rokin, though. Rokin comes in alongside Vert, finds himself a nice little elimination there. Really starting to get cooking super early here. Vert and Rokin now have themselves 2 early eliminations. Over by the Slappy Shores. We do know, of course, Hoop and Miro, like we said before, are just nearby.
The interesting thing is, like, even though we're talking about like Kanata and Agers and how well they've been performing, you got to realize this isn't just a fight for that first place. It's top 10 teams on that leaderboard qualify for the global championship. So there's so much to fight for, including all of that cash that trickles down the leaderboard. Rise the Yamso find a little bit of contestation this time around, but this is something they were prepared for. They thought it was going to happen in game 1.
Finally.
So it doesn't matter to them that it happens in
Why
game
don't you
4.
blocking my TV screen?
That Sphinx, they have nothing to lose. They already have their
Oh
global
yeah,
championship spot.
it's
So they can go ahead and fight
showtime.
with the full aggression or as much of it as they want.
Showtime.
Yeah, Rise and they're only at 130, right? As far as the points go. If you were Kanata, right? Team Kanata and Agers, they have 230 plus points. They have a 100-point lead now over the bulk of the lobby or more. Take a look at Esri, the tank here. Oh man, finds Knifer with a quick finish there. That's the first of this duo we've seen today.
Okay.
Comes on over, wraps up Snacky, the veteran. Nicely done for them. That's going to be a good point secured.
Threats, Booga.
Blake and Macwood down and out to the hands of 20 once again.
I feel like I've seen
Quick
this
finishes.
episode. I feel like I've seen this episode before. Booga and Threats, just the same strategy they've been doing all day long. But if you can see Steamy Springs this time around, there's not 2 teams anymore. They're not contesting each other. So this is going to be much harder for Booga and Threats to pick up that surge now that it's just G, Money, and his partner over there. So they're going to have to adapt on the fly. They're going to have to be flexible when it comes to their game plan.
I was just about to call this fight out. Degen just picked up the elimination onto Shore here. This has been a back and forth between the two. Zypher and Shore have had a lot of success in other weeks, but really has gone to either which side. Can Pump get the damage he's looking for? He's chucking that thing. He swings his way around. Degen ends up getting taken out. Oh no, things start to backfire here. Subscript puts his 2 cents into the mix.
Playing a game of ping pong. I've seen this once, and it was Threats. He got a double elimination with the kinetic ore. Now Degen goes down because of it. When you don't have a gun, when you don't have bullets, you don't have anything, you just use the kinetic ore. You use anything that you can find, and already they're finding some success. As long as he can kind of clean that one up. You can even see Possess joining in on that fun. And it's really not something you see every day. Now everybody wants to try.
Yeah, you can see the tags coming in. The momentum comes shortly after as it rockets its way across the field. Pluto and Subscript, though, looking for anything they can find. The down body, they didn't actually get the finish. Okay, so Pump has a true chance here, but no. There's that shotgun breaking the builds here, making it a lot harder than may have seen. Big deals come in as well. Yep, he's going to catch all that. Actually, Degen tries to crawl his way out. Nope, he's exposed now. And that'll be it.
We say, is it though? We said, get that rock away from me. Just get it out of my sight. I don't want to have to worry about it anymore. Let's just continue to see where this solo was left off, because it was them who did get the knock onto Degen so far, so they know Pump is running around by himself. Possess and Zuko, they just took the damage that they wanted out of Shattered Slabs. They know the zone is rotating away, so they don't want to get stuck behind everybody else on the congested side of the zone.
That's right. Usually the standard is, of course, to stick around to grab your teammate's reboot card. So they have every ounce of confidence that Pump is nearby. There it is. Pump gets out of there. The wall comes out. Figure out he's here. He tries to go for the card. Don't think he quite was able to run over the body positioning there and goes for the 50-50. Doesn't quite win it. And in the end, they get taken out there.
Great opportunity for Suspect and Flutto to kind of pick up everything left off.
Oh,
battle ping pong.
Kick rocks.
With no
literally
socks.
and figuratively.
It's just something you really don't see every day. And then you get that sky view of it all, just kind of using every tool in their tool belt to find some success. And you can already see Cold with that early elimination onto Fatch to kind of start the game off. You can see they're continuously using this game plan. They're splitting up, taking two separate directions. They're gathering all the surge, and as the zones continue to close, zone 3, zone 4, that's when they're going to group up together, when they're forced to at these tight quarters.
Everything playing out here. Strategy looking to be executed on. This is it. We're in the halfway point of the first day, the NA FNCS Grand Finals. Game 4, we've had enough time to really feel out the competition. In normal Fortnite competitions, at this point, around this time, lobbies become to get anxious. They become to get antsy. Players fight more. Lobbies tends to thin out. I'm not sure I'm seeing that same trend just yet. There are still a lot of players live, but we do have a lot of time in front of us. We will see what will unfold here shortly, but hold up. Talking about that, players getting antsy. We got Wavy Jacob and Naj here. Wavy Jacob a little far though. Should be closer.
Yeah, everybody's kind of positioned near a lot of these rifts. Here the cache is opening up as well. Wavy Jacob returns to kind of claim what's theirs. Everybody else, the possibility to fight for that rift island is there. And because of those rifts, a lot of these teams will make it there a lot quicker than others. Notch and Wavy Jacob. They have the choice, since they're so behind everybody else. Are they going to be one of the teams to try and contest it later on, or are they just going to try to get the zone? And I think it is going to be the latter. Play a calm, cool, collected game. They are at the top of the leaderboard here. More caches going around. Cashers and revives. For them, it's not just the heals, but they're going to be able to pack a punch with their loadout. So depending on what rarity is, but you're still going to get that epic rarity. You're going to get your slurp juices. So their loadout just got significantly better.
Yeah, Casker and Revised looking to repeat that game 1 performance. Need something pretty big here. They've earned themselves a significant amount of points, but of course, they're hunting for a bit more. Excellent tags here. They're looking for teams trying to rotate here, getting straight to the new safety zone. Peterbot and Bryce Larson there. They're all starting to land right up on top of one another. Clicks and Epic Will on the other side here have a little bit of distance between the two, but it seems like they've also found themselves a nice little upgrade. All right, switching up the loadout here. This is what we just talked about. You have like a mid-game strategy, you start getting into your end-game strategy.
Yeah, preparing for the long haul. Same can be said by Bryson Chubbs. They've been performing increasingly well, almost every season. I was going to say on the day, every single game, but every single season I see them. They look like they're a potential contender for a championship, and now they're contending for not only that, but the global championship spots as well. But there's 3 teams kind of stacked up here towards the edge of zone. Got Zeus and his teammate as well, Peterbot and Larson, then Bryce and Chubbs. And they're all fighting for this loot. They're fighting for Storm Surge, they're fighting for eliminations. They gotta be careful because the zone is pulling towards the eastern side of the map. So you don't want to fall behind everybody else on this side.
No one in sight. Everyone's already starting to slide out of here and move. They recognize that as well. They take the time to rotate. They're going to have A good time here as no one peeks back at them. Meanwhile, Booga and Threat still playing the late zone strategy. Okay, I don't know how I feel about this. The first time we watched them, they were taking battles.
Yeah, and the zones are just being very, very difficult for a lot of players today. I'm going to go and throw it on over to Vivid to break down some of these zones.
Yeah, so far in the first 4 zones, we've seen that it's going to pull way up north, which has big implications for a lot of these teams that are going to be landing at south. And of course, one of them is going to be Booga and Threats, which means that they're going to find themselves playing very Booga typical style, staying inside the storm actually, and still finding storm surge tags along the way. But that means they have to go ahead and stack up their heals to make sure that they can go ahead and survive all of that storm damage. But that also means that the south side of this zone is going to be very, very congested. That late rotate in for Booga and Threats means that they can go around. And of course, there are other teams like Acorn and Cold Favorites who also have to make that rotate.
Now, one thing we are noticing, thank you, Vivid, for the catch-up there, that when you look at the loadouts, they're starting to run thin on ammunition. If they can't find other resources on their way inside, I mean, sitting in the zone might not be as favorable for them this time around. And that first game, that was their problem. They stood a little too far. They didn't quite get to where they wanted to, position-wise, in time. And that turned out to be a difficult one. But then 2 and 3, they, of course, turned up. So hopefully we see them continue to be on track here, position-wise. Redux and Stacky, though, have that high ground. The Rift Island seemingly has spawned in a similar location. These all favoring the southwestern portions here. A lot of the same teams getting the options at this loot.
And judging by the Mythic Flapjack as well, probably already got that vault over from Mega City. That's 3 points, and they're looking for 15 more. So realistically, if they capture this, that's 18 points straight off of those mid-match objectives already. And you can see how that is helping teams. We've seen during the weekly finals, it literally win teams at first place because of the 15 points you get granted. So now imagine 12 games, 12 opportunities to grab those points. Very, very crucial and could be deciding here on who goes to the global championship overall.
I think tomorrow we'll see that really come into place.
Yeah,
teams
especially with odds.
Yep, teams are going to make the adjustment. They're going to look at, all right, who's contesting these positions? We need a lot of points. We're going to have to make the adjustment. So that's my early prediction right now as I'm starting to look ahead of the competition here. But jumping right back into the present, Flutter and Suscript, the team that has continuously found themselves into early game successful spots. They got themselves 3 elims. They hit that rift on the go, and they're out.
Shut the fuck up.
Maybe Jacob and not just gonna follow that same rotation path that they've set out. The zone not only moving so far to the east, it is also moving towards the north side of the map as well. Half of it is in water already, so it is definitely going to center up over towards the Lonely Labs POI and just south of it as well. So a lot of those teams that are slow to rotate on that west and that south side are going to get congested, and more so that south side. That's their huge cliffhanger going from the Slappy Shores biome up into that snow biome that these players will have to overcome.
Yeah, normally that's a great place to just run a foot rotate, but not when there's teams already situated there. This is going to be a very tough one to navigate right now. Through the Brutal Bastion we go, and you can see even Edgy and Duke here on extreme edge right now as they try to navigate through these nooks and crannies. This is what we talk about. Make it nice and easy to move on foot, but it's just those teams in the distance you got to be careful with. But luckily for them, this field is not fully farmed. Normally what teams would do, they would actually shoot these out. So I'm surprised Baka and crew didn't actually open up the landscape. Had they done that, they'd be so much more successful. Look how much space Duke and Edgy stole away, and you know they're going to be upset about it right now when they start looking out like, dang, will these guys get that close?
That was us. That was potential surge. Kanata and Agers, they're looking to kind of bolster their lead here. Yep, that was Agers who actually got credit for that knock. The surprising thing about it all is they're only 140 above that damage threshold. And that would seem like a lot. But for players like Kanata and Agers know how volatile Storm Surge can get, that's not a feeling of comfortability. They know they have to continue to look around the map to figure out what other players are easy targets, where can they get that damage before they have to rotate, because even though they're so close to zone, they're not in it yet.
Yeah, Day actually finished off clicks down there as well. And he's starting to move in with Nelson here, so good on them to find themselves some points. They actually really need them. But we get to jump in now with the Yamzo and Rise as their journey continues here. Barely holding on. Teetering on the edge of the surge. Warning here. Oh, just a pixel away. That would have been a huge tag. I'm sure that opportunity won't present itself again. Half in, pulls all the way south here. Okay, that's perfect for a good chunk of the teams.
And for Miro Cooper, if they built a sky base here, because remember the zone was over this side of the map, if they built a sky base earlier on in the game, they can go back and recycle that and have a potential to steal away the high ground as Rise with the relentless pressure with the flapjack. Gonna help take down Hound. Aiden is becoming the target. That one's easy, but it gets stolen away by Cold and Acorn. You can see them inch by inch closing in on the distance. They're trying to steal away that loot. You can see that Acorn does lack about 50 HP, so he needs to figure out a way to gain that back.
Yeah, and they end up securing it, so that's going to be a big come up for them. Let's jump on Wavy Jacob, one of the few solos left in the lobby here. Meanwhile, Kanata finds Vanilla, so they have that little bit of high ground. They're making the most of it. Azers finds Elims, Kanata finds another one. These boys are on fire right now. They already have a substantial lead, and it's just another good game set up right here. This could be a runaway train unfolding before our eyes right now, but we still have a lot of Fortnite in front of us here.
You see Wavy Jacob just trying to be a nuisance. Looking into the distance, peeking through, getting some stinky shots. He doesn't have to rotate too far because he's already on the side of the mountain in the zone. Bolt and Thoric not too far off. They went out, healed the zone to try to get their position in towards the zone. And late in the game, having your teammate kind of get knocked usually would be a terrifying situation, but they realize because of their planning early on in the game, they're on the slow side of the zone. Not too many players are here to try to bull rush the box and start the revive. So even though it was a mistake for Bylaw, he could shake off the dust and get ready for this next rotation.
Opus is down. It's just up to Bucky now. 122 above the surge as well, so this is going to be an ongoing problem. You see unfold here. The zone's going to continue to pull south to use Slappy. Okay, so for Miro, for Cooper, for Bugha, for Threats, for teams that kind of play the southern outskirt, that rotate Cold as well, they should be looking very, very good right now. They get the first dibs here at claiming the draw spot, picking up the remaining loot that we saw left behind. Yamzo and Rise are one of the first teams to make that run through as well, so they're going to be the first to start claiming up this new territory here. Meanwhile, Bucky gets a free rotate all the way across as well. Takes a minute to go and get his farm on. Look at this. No one's looking out here. No one expects him to be there. He doesn't take a shot either. That might have been a mistake, though.
He's even using somebody else getting shot as information, but he needs to be careful because that's Muzz and Paper who are right behind, and you can see Peterbot is going to be down. It's a challenge that I think Larson is ready for. Be able to get the knock onto one. Back-to-back shots. Taking down both Skittles and Aviv. And now if you see his loadout, 6 slurp juices. He has enough for a party.
Looking very, very good here. I mean, I'm just drinking him on the rotate. Yeah, he's already doing it. He has literally one ticking right now.
7. He had 7 then. Probably filled up his cooler and he's ready to hit the beach on the side of Slappy Shores.
Backpack ready.
He just has to figure out how he's going to get there. He's actually using a lot of players who are down or becoming a focus to try to go ahead and maneuver past everybody. And because of those slurp juices, you can see he's going to go cut all the way east and use the shore of the beach as his rotation. He's going to try to go ahead and sneak under everybody's noses to try to find himself a safe spot.
Arguably the only player in the lobby who can do this right now. A very unique position to find yourself in where you can actually tank this storm like this. Meanwhile, Clarity G taken out. I was just going to say, opposite situation happening right in front of him. Teams desperate to find heals. Bugha falls on this rotate. It seems like it doesn't work out for him, but it was just a knock there. So Threats finds diminish. That was the problem that was in front of him. And look at that. The wide rotate pays out. Larson finds himself on a mid-ground position here. Should probably open up the box just a little bit there to give him some space, but Threats is still alive here. He has Pledge just to the side. Pledge who found attacks onto Bugha here. Goes for the wall take too. Threats does not want to take this fight here. Thinking that it might be a two-team operation, but it's not.
But his danger's just begun. Oh
my gosh, he just
Mason.
Out of nowhere. He just looked like he got an elbow from the top rope. Pinfall 1, 2, 3. You're out. Crowned ourselves a new victor, and they saw Yamso go down in the feed not too long ago, which is once again putting the pressure onto Rise to pick up as many points as he can as a solo, and placement points have just begun to set in, as now we're into the top 21. Little cheeky shot, an opportunity for Surge there for Rise, but realizes I cannot get too greedy as he keeps this show on the road.
2 elims already. This is it. End game starting to unfold in front of us here. Just has to stay alive here. Every time we've tuned in with them, it does seem like it's been a different story. No same game for them, not today here. Larson, another one of these solos here that we care about, the story we want to follow here, of course. Looking everywhere, Kanata, Agers, oh man.
Big.
Looking pretty solid, able to recuperate all this material here.
I feel like this was reminding me of when Peterbot and Bylaw won their FNCS championship. It was almost a runaway in that first day of competition. Even though in day 2 they slipped up just a little bit, they built themselves such a massive cushion. No one was really able to catch up. As Bolts and Thoric, they have an FNCS championship underneath their belt already. They're going to the global championship as well. Because they're just trying to deny entry to anybody trying to sneak their way into the zone.
I expected Coop and Miro to be in a much stronger position here, but no, Cooper lets his guard down and gets tagged from behind and fully finished here. Miro's up to do this once again by himself. It happened last game, it's happening now. He did find points last game. Can he do it again here? 122 is not too bad, but it ain't great either. Meanwhile, Agers finds Epic Whale. The knock, the full finish. Okay. Everything is happening here.
Everything's just happening so quick. Larson is even down to his last slurp juice. Wouldn't even count that as a med miss, as only has just a little bit on it. Pressure coming from above, doing quick maneuvering to try to get on out, but he's wasting a lot of builds up until this point, down to his last 18 that he could place, and already those are being expended just to find his way into the zone, refarming where he can. Nawson and Gay doing the same thing, just a quick slap splash before they end up on their rotation.
Fairly safe and a broken roof to work with, but Nawson and Day are on the move here. 7 eliminations right now, front side of zone. I like this spot right here. And they're just prioritizing positioning. Now they have a little moment to breathe, moment to work with. Who's on the backside? Can he catch someone? No one. Not just yet here. Meanwhile, Bryson Chubbs fully eliminated there. Rise as a solo. We jump back in. Gets collapsed on at 180. Big shot there, but no finish. It's Rokane who finishes them off. Larson's here too. Larson right behind Possess there. No tag.
Can someone 1v1 me?
That's big. I was about to say, the slurp juice is already popped. He could stagger himself with the med miss, but not when Kanata and Agers are in the end game yet again. The consistency king standing tall, but the pressure is there. But nothing Kanata doesn't know how to handle, but holding on to it zone after zone, that high ground, Bolts and Thoric. At this point in time, they just need to execute and win this game.
Gay's here, Nawson's here, Acorn cold as well. Rokane gets finished. A lot of big names still here. Anything can happen. Thoric's on the high ground. Don't forget, they have everything in their arsenal to take out any team they want. First, it's going to be cold. Acorn now behind that meadow. It's not going to last for long. He gets fully finished there. And Kanata now working things up here on the low ground.
Oh, got tagged up.
Just earning so many points.
Slurp juice is so important for Kanata's success. Gets himself into another top 4 position. You can see him staggering towards the backside of the zone. He just ran past that med mist. He knew it was there, and he's planning for the future. There's only one duo left into the game, and it's the high ground team of Bolts and Thoric. They have this one in their pocket. It's served up. They just need to eat.
That was crazy. Wow. Kanata actually found an additional slurp juice as well. Comes out with 100 HP, by the way, when it was almost all over. And look at the Mythic Shotgun. This is what we talk about, how strong it can be for him to just break his way through these seemingly indestructible walls. They have so much HP in these home structures like this. But hold up. Kanata's on high alert here. He recognizes Day is nearby. But like we said, he has the advantage. Thor comes down, he's like, nah, we're not going to let you get too comfortable. We want a piece of this action here. These are points that we can earn. Can we make it 10? Kanata's trapped here, stuck against the wall. The edit comes in, and the finish on both sides. Bolts and Thoric close things out.
And things you love to see, Bolts and Thoric. The way Thoric has been performing lately is on a whole nother level, from clutching 1v2s to getting sneaked attack and being able to turn and burn, taking down opponents, and now having having the confidence to take 2 different 1v1s towards the end game. Because now imagine, Monster, if they both would have lost, that how sideways that would have turned. But the teams of the former NA West region are back on top.
This is what we love to see. This is what makes NA such an exciting region to watch now. The competition has truly been elevated here. Bolt and Thor gets a start really making a name. Look at how they just sneak up on DGen. Look at how they close up Kanata and Day, right, on each respective side, winning their ones when it matters. And then as soon as Boats finishes it off, he just comes right back on. He's like, don't worry, Thorix, I'm right there, opens the door, and it's all over.
It almost looked like they had 5, even 6 eliminations each into those double digits. Bolts and Thor have surely risen up that leaderboards after that game. But I'm going to go over with Zeke, SPG, and Kelly to break it all down.
My, oh my, before we say anything else, give a big welcome to SPG. He's going to be hanging out with us for the last 3 games here. Vivid is going to the mid-game analyst position. Wow. This is really good again, but really bad. Bolt and Thoric, they already have a spot in global championships. This could be a duo looking to move up into that top 10. Remember what I said? If duos that already have spots are in that top 10, we're then going to start shifting down and saying it's not top 10 anymore, it's top 11, it's top 12. This is scary.
I don't know. I love it. I love the anticipation. I love the fact that you can't predict what's going to happen. I want to see all 5 teams that have already qualified make it into the top 10 so that we just don't know who's going to make it. But of course, Bolt and Thoric, like our casters were saying, the reigning champs out of NA West had such a great hold of high ground here. But what I specifically love from this duo is how they handle the in-game conflicts. Pincering between each individual players, doing it so that they knew that there was no opportunity for those players to run away, find more heals, and have a potential victory royale.
And just those extra few points that they're able to get from picking up those elims are huge for them, because that's 4 points every time they were able to pick those up. Day and Kanata could have went head-to-head, stolen away a couple of those elims, and that's a huge swing. You know, 8 points is pretty significant when we come down to the end of the day. You're also,
how do we get fucking loot?
Doing right now, they are just absolutely dominating everybody.
How the fuck we get loot, gang?
What their end game is, if they're together, if they're a solo, if they're high ground, low ground, they are doing so well. Also, they got Rift Island, you know.
Yeah, that's the other thing that scares me a lot as we start to kind of dive into our standings. Kanata did not get the victory out. He placed top 3, right? And maybe in some circumstances we think, well, that's not a win. It is, though, because they made it up in that top 3. They got the consistency points. Look at that
How the fuck I get a gun?
310 points. These guys are absolutely going insane. And, I mean, based on the few weeks we've seen, Kelly, I feel like this is deserved.
I mean, not only do they almost have double the amount of points overall, but they also have double the amount of eliminations besides one team compared to everyone else, SVG.
That's absolutely absurd. Like, the fact that they're doing this right now, and historically, Kanata is not a day 1 player. He normally shows up on day 2. So this bodes really well for the 2 of them to claim their first FNCS championship. And Kanata is one of the most deserving, is the most deserving of the players in NA that hasn't gotten one yet.
I mean, wouldn't it be incredible, Kanata and Agers, the team to be 1 placement away in Major 1 to not make it into Globals. Kanata, who has done time and time again, made it into the top, but not that first place spot. To not only get his first FNCS win, but to also punch his ticket into Globals, and to do it in such a way that they're doing it right now. That is a story to be told. And then, of course, you have to love his reactions.
I mean, yeah, if you haven't seen it, social media, go check it out. We turn our attentions back to the standings. Iamzo and Rise rising up into that 2nd place spot. Now remember, I'm going to keep saying it. This is a duo. Again, missed out on quals. They were so close to global championship, just fell short. They need to end this weekend in a top 10 if they hope to keep that FNCS dream alive. And you know, SBG, 2nd place is looking real good.
All I have to say is finally. Like, this team is good. They are arguably the best on this region, and we're now seeing them show up to what they should be and what they are, and that's scary for everybody else in this lobby. Kanata and Agers, they've created a lead, but opportunities are going to start knocking, especially because these two are right near each other on the map, and we could see some contests or some battles in that early to mid game.
Yeah, especially if the zone actually pulls south forever. It seems like it's never going to do that. It's only going to go to the north. If it goes south, I would love to see these two duos go head-to-head. But Iamzo and Rise, we've seen them in the past. They are not typically day one competitors, just like Kanata and Agers, but they're showing that that is not the case. And I think that's due to all the studying that they do. And we know that they're going to be VOD reviewing as well tonight. So I would love to see them kind of flip the script tomorrow and take Kanata and Agers for their money.
I'm worried. Look at this. Two duos that have already made it to global championships, currently in our top 10. Remember, this is a good thing, sort of, kind of a bad thing.
Gosh.
I don't know. It creates chaos, and Kelly loves chaos. That is what we are here for. I do want to highlight very quickly, Peterbot and Larson climbing up into that top 10 spot. Remember, if this were to end right now, we're looking at the top 12. So them being able to find these little bit of points, and I guess for me, one thing I've kind of been thinking a lot about is this is 50 of the best duos NA has. These games, though they may appear a certain way, they may look a little easy. Remember, we have that bird's eye view. This is some of the toughest competition we've seen today.
Who says it looks easy?
They make it look easy.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Finally, another team though, that really needs to be able to show up here. Larson putting the team on his back in this game and had a sick clutch as a solo.
And the game before, Peterbot was the solo clutch, so I love to see both of them show up.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to talk about is the solo impact points. Now, we're going to take a look from games 1 through 3. This is when a person is left alive by themselves, that to put the duo mate on their back. What are they pulling off in these games? As you can see right now, Iamzo leading with 41 points. Just take a look at a lot of these top 3 names, right? Bakampars, Reet as well. I'm sorry, yeah, Bert. D-Roller. I mean, look at all these numbers. The 41 particular, though, is the number that stands out to me the most, which tells me Rise has been kind of taken out of the equation for a lot of these games.
Well, I think that's exactly why this team is not succeeding based on the level they've set in qualifiers.
Right.
They're not a team that relies on solo clutches. They're a team that plays together, plays a solid game as a duo, and the fact that Iamzo has the most points up here is not a good thing in my opinion. And most duos, I would say that's awesome because they clutched up, but I know those two should be playing extraordinarily well together.
I love, though, our expectations are so high for them. They're in second place right now, and we're saying that they're not doing well, and they're obviously doing phenomenal right now, but when you go up against Agers and Kanata, you just look dwarfed in comparison.
Yeah, and again, it's just us being critical, right? This is the grand finals. When we eventually hit the stage that is Global Championships, you have to be on your game. Now, I want to keep talking about this. This is really interesting to me, but there's more games to be had. We just wrapped up game number 4, which means we have 2 left before we say goodbye for today. But get ready. The battle bus is ready. We hope you are as well. This is game number 5.
There's only 2 more games before day number 1 is wrapped up. And you cannot let a team like Kanata and Agers run away with it, or you could kiss that FNCS championship goodbye.
That's right. Time flies when you're having fun, though. That's it. We're at the tail end here, so things are going to begin to pick up right now. But like you mentioned, Kanata and Agers truly do have the competition effectively wrapped up for day 1, so it's up to everyone else right now to start to pick it up here.
Yeah, it's about that consistency that Kanata and Agers have been putting through, and Agers has just been phenomenal as just a singular individual player at every single one of these moments. But game 5, Monster, one of the last chances on the day. What are some of the things you're looking out for?
I want to see more Bolts and Thoric. I love how they just came up out of nowhere, picked up that big win there in those final moments. Bryson Chubbs have an opportunity now to continue to show up and put themselves inside that top 10 conversation and stay there. But all in all, I mean, it really is a conversation of the top 10, I think, collectively overall right now, because first place, you know, it's going to take, I don't know, how many games you think Agers and Kanatas would have to pretty much zero some out in order to give the opportunity to the rest of the lobby right now.
I want to say 2, close to 3 dud games are needed out of the next 8, because 2 to finish out today and then 6 more tomorrow. Broken and Virgo. I don't know who it was, but somebody has their mom coming into the room while this tournament going on. He's just saying, get out of the room, Mom. I need to win. And he pulled off already a big elimination to start it off.
Thatch and Pamsu, though, where are they? What do they do? What's the adjustment here? They decided to land slightly different, and already another team adjusting there, too. Let's not forget, they have now fallen down to 25th place with 80 points here when they were well inside the top 10. I think inside actually our third place team after game 1, and all of a sudden now they're trying to adjust. So I appreciate the adjustment. I like the changes here. I'm a big fan of Pam and Thatch, but it's a tough ask right now as they're having a very hard time here.
Just Acorn and Cold yet again.
Yeah, that's who it is.
And they're closing in on the distance. They probably realized there was no shields on that player they were tagging up. And they said this one's just going to be easy as they're licking their lips. Acorn closing in on the distance. Pamsu has no choice but to basically run the other way, reunite, but there's a team literally right below them, or at least a singular player in Defiable, who's done a good job of hiding his position so far. And this is something that could turn Pamsu and Thatch on inside and continue to bolster Defiable's game.
I was actually just wishing that Thatch would have found some tags there onto Acorn to really show him, like, hey, look, you're not just going to sneak up on me. I'm already gone, but now we're turning the tides on you. Luckily, Acorn doesn't see anything and instead backs off there, so this should give him a little opportunity here, but Defiable still, of course, a threat lingering by. What can Pamsu and Thatch do here with such a limited loadout? If they can turn this game around and bounce back, I mean, that in its own is a huge, huge feat.
I feel like they just need to start kind of rotating early. Maybe even cut off somebody else's loot path. Would be a great strategy. Switch-ups continue. Day and Nasen with one elimination so far. They pushed off the team of G-Money. They probably now by a solo. Booga and Threats continuing the strategy they've already had up until this point. Just hounding that situation as Agers now feeling that confident. And you can see where both Kanata and Agers are getting some of their early game surge from. They're picking two different mountains that are facing Mega City.
Hey, somebody come towards this little solo shit.
On those teams that are looting in and out of those
yeah.
Before they kind of turn back around. And
I gotta go against this dude.
And it's just so smooth for them. The rotates right now, as they've done the micro changes to avoid Epic Whale. We just had a brief conversation. Tomorrow, we're thinking they might be contested. Maybe someone's going to mix it up, but hold up. Boy, you already had the knock in the full finish. Now we jump in with Sphinx, who opens up big. And look at how fast they're moving. This is like blood in the water. Quick, sharp attack here. It's D-Roller, it's Ritual. Little do they know D-Roller doesn't have the heals to sustain a drawn-out battle, it seems, unless he's probably make it. He might be. Saw the animation there.
If this tournament were to end right now, I know we
there's nothing in the legend
top 10 positions on the leaderboard. Well, you have to take into account Cold and Acorn and Bolt and Thor.
Bro, this is ripping off. There's nothing in the legend.
So those spots would bump down into the top 12. So then that means Miro and Cooper would then get in. But Miro and Cooper already have their spots. So you're seeing the cascading effects of the placements that include those players that already qualified, which just goes to show that the leaderboard, in theory, is a lot closer than it actually is. And it goes to show how important those early game fights actually are.
But it also shows you like how more important a top 15 performance is. Because those bubble teams are going to have, honestly, something to celebrate by the time this weekend's over. The likelihood of, you know, a team that's qualified coming inside the top 10 is there to qualify for a reason, right?
Okay, I see you, Booga Day.
Booga going in for Steamy Springs while Threats kind of watching him. But what's better than one mammoth? Two mammoths. Oh, well, that came down very, very quickly.
What about three mammoths? There's one on the other side.
But what I like about this, though, is he literally almost went down with the mammoth, and he's showing no fear to continue to put those shots out there. They realize how important it is for them to get Storm Surge early, because that makes it to where they can have a flexible game plan. They can rotate exactly when they want, if it's early, if it's late. The decision is now theirs.
You have to be careful, though. The more damage you give to the lobby, the higher the threshold raises, of course. So, in the end, you don't want to take any damage if possible, but Yelms on Rise looking well right now. Second place here. You know, they have all of their stuff sorted so far. Take a look at Aikman. They've kind of been on an upwards track so far.
That's something that you know about this team. And Arizona Lobby should be on notice as well. They haven't yet had that pop-off performance, and it's only a matter of time. That's the thing. They're going to pop off. It wouldn't be cold in Acorn. It wouldn't be one of the best duos in the game if that potential wasn't there. So it's interesting to see when and where that will happen. But for now, they're okay with a little bit of a slow game, keeping themselves within contention of that first place spot, because it is day number 2. Same thing to when Major 1 came around, to where they had those pop-off moments on the second half of the final.
Yeah, odds are we've already seen the worst they have to offer.
Scary.
Bro, just try one. I like popcorn.
DJ here, 2 already near max cap material points.
No.
Like what
I
I'm
like
seeing.
popcorn.
Second spot
I don't
in
like
the
any type of
distance.
popcorn.
Doesn't quite connect with
Baxter,
it.
come
I
here.
think he's just shooting birds here.
That's the controller, bro.
So,
Dude.
these birds
Bro, I have a lead pump added.
shooting at anything, keeping yourself warm at the very least.
They only have
Jump on board Caskers and Revise. They had a great start to the day, and actually have been doing a good job staying consistent since then, making sure they stay inside of that top 10, staying inside of the bubble before tomorrow, which is important. Because you got to think right now, 10th place as it stands, Peterbot and Larson, 142 points. 11th place right below is 128. So it's about a 14-point differential between qualifying for the global championship and not. And to me, that's nothing. That's like 4 eliminations. That's lasting maybe till top 18. So things could turn on its side in a second.
Right. Larson and Peterbot have had a pretty okay performance so far. We've seen them have their moments. Let's put them inside that top 10 here. Let's take a look at the map. First, if we're seeing way down to the southeast, okay, finally something getting a little different here. I'd like to see some variety. These are just max pulls, though. These are big rotates for the bulk of the teams on that other side now.
Uh-oh, Agers in the feed taking down the opposite. That's first place, getting the knock onto second place. Where exactly was that? You gotta imagine possibly.
Is that the finish, too?
Sharing a lot of loot, yeah, because there's no loot cache there. So he did actually clean that one up, and I gotta imagine into the distance, a solo player over towards that racetrack might be Rise. And this is almost revenge, because in a Cash Cup a few weeks ago, first and second place yet again, Rise and Yamzo did take down both Kanata and Agers to take the tournament.
Looks like he might have been spotted out, mining, looking for material down here. Out of position, and now out of the lobby. Yup, it was Rise just there. You see how he had the double box fortress set up. The loot cache is here. They try to get greedy, maybe send one out, thinking they can secure this, and it just didn't work.
That's just impressive. Kanata and Agers are first and second in terms of individual elims with 15 and 10.
That's so sick.
And I'm wondering how they got such a lead. Well, both of you performing to such a high standard simultaneously, consistently making it to these end games. Both of them having the potential to clutch up. Agers even doing so in one of our games to get a victory for his team. And you even talked about a south pole this time around, so no more comfortability floating around Slappy Shores this game.
I like to rotate here. Jylix and Zeus getting the move on right now, but no, turns back. The big tag comes in, so he's forced to defend himself. This is where you have to dig deep here. Hit the shots when it matters most. Oh, I was gonna say, he walks right in, doesn't even see him. Almost had the highlight he was looking for. They do get the finish still, but not as clean as they probably would have liked. Oh, the timing there. The heels come in.
I was a little scared.
Slow down, though. He gets the finish. Nice.
Big win right there, but another team that's kind of forced to rotate in from that north side of the map. Not really working out in their favor.
We need to make sure Pars and Baka are there.
Oh yeah, I'm on this nigga team.
They've been kind of on the run this entire game as well. This Clicks and Epic, well, they're looking kind of pick up the pace here. They're a team that doesn't want to wait for tomorrow. They want to get the job done today, close the gap when it comes to those points. That way, hey, maybe they can even make history.
That's right. It's like being so close yet so far right now. Really just having a hard time piecing things. Let's see it. This is zone 4 here.
Literally last 40% of the zone towards the bottom. We're gonna have no one in sight. So if we want to go ahead and rotate towards that slow side, now would be the time. Includes Clicks and Epic Well. We're on the north side of the zone. But before they can rotate into the zone, you can see they're just going for their loot cache. They're just trying to bolster their loadout. That's something that they need to keep themselves alive overall. Kanata and Agers, they have such a massive lead. And guess what? I want to figure out how these guys are getting this lead. I'm going to go and throw it over to Vivid so he can break it all down.
The lead is huge, and honestly, something in Fortnite that we don't get to talk about a lot is the clock. Time. Of course, they are landing over towards the racetrack, but they're there for like 2 minutes and quickly rotate towards Mega City, build up some bases, and get some early storm surge on an unsuspecting team. Because, like, how are you already there 2 minutes into the game? So it catches those players off guard. But, of course, we notice that the zone is going to be pulling south this game, so they go back up north towards their POI, and, like I just mentioned, with a south pulling zone, a bunch of those north teams have to rotate south to make it into the zone. And Yamzo, one of those teams, unfortunately for him, getting taken out there in second place. Big for Kanata and Agers.
That was perfect. We needed that quick look there from Vivid because I was wondering what all happened there. You can see it was actually a full-on fight between the two. It just didn't go their way.
I think you were still kind of right the first time, though, because that's been a part of Kanata, or Yamzo and Rise's strategy. Not only their cache that's around it, but all the surrounding ones as well. As we've seen more and more teams try to contest the Rift Island earlier and earlier, and that's something I feel like we're going to see happen tomorrow as a lot of teams get a chance to prepare. VOD review, realize how late to the punch some of these teams are getting. But it's going to be NPen and Byla over onto that side. Only 2 teams on top of Rift Island. But we're seeing a return from the grave. Yamzo and Rise. You see they've landed more headshots than any other duo today in 46.
He's in there in second. Let's take a look here. Pushing on in. All the movement. You love it. That's that follow-up. That's what we talked about right there. The damage. And you have to assume this man is wondering what just happened. How did he roll up on me like that? Like, hello?
Man,
quick as a flash.
He just be hitting those high-flying shots left and right. Same thing I saw him do with a couple fadeaways in the duo Cash Cup. To jump on board Miro and Cooper. They have the cooler of splashes as well. 6 different slurp juices.
Insane.
Probably finding not only loot caches, but somebody else's as well. They're getting the POI capture to give themselves more gold. That way they can re-roll a lot of those augments. They're definitely in prime position this game.
Take a look at this big med kit play here. Storm Surge, giving Wavy Jacob a hard time here in Notch. 189 damage below. They're tucked in the low ground. Just a terrible spot to be in. Nothing opens up. They stop. This is 10 seconds to heal. It's just bad.
Yeah. Surge, zone, rapid. All 3 things dealing damage right now.
Yeah, me and my nigga about to beat y'all's ass on me.
City, and this is where the time is going to run out for Wavy Jacob. He gets dropped. Notch, a few seconds later, meets that same demise. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter what happens in those early games. If you get some eliminations, if it's off spawn, it's just simply not enough damage. This lobby is kind of stacked. A lot of these players know exactly how they're getting surged, and they're doing it game after game after game. Even if it's not a ton, they're doing just enough to keep themselves above that threshold so they don't have to worry about it.
That's what I said. It's all about strategy. Early to mid-game is a game of strats. How much preparation did you put in? Because if you didn't, it's going to show. Yamzo and Rise now in a fight here. This is one that they actually need to take. They have to take this. Oh, there goes the surge. That means the difference between them and the other teams. it was 5 points and then 118 below. So there it is. Gets right on in, finds everything they need. That's at least 300 worth of damage for the Yamzu gets down here. Wasn't worth it. We need to get the quick follow-up. Heal up. Loses the Yamzu in the process. This is bad for being in second place.
Yeah, this is tough. If Skyrazor can go ahead and capture this opportunity, he knows he lost his teammate into Fireball. Quickly picked up that reboot card. Other choices here, depending on how confident he feels with those heals. As Rise has some in his back pocket, just trying to pop that med kit, giving himself a fighting chance. He doesn't have Yamzo's reboot card just yet.
Oh, med kit. Yeah. Heals. Med miss. Oh, okay.
What a find.
It's great.
Goes to show that this is why a lot of teams stagger themselves behind and go ahead and re-loots a lot of those vaults.
Man, he's happy with that. He's like, you know what? Oh, I got plenty of heals. I'm going to rift out of here.
They're rifting together, though.
I was going to say, he does have Sire on his tail, though.
Come over here. Hip to hip. Even a couple teams in Mega City right now.
I was going to say, there's no shot they're going to the same healing reboot spot, right?
Yeah, POW zone as well. We'll try to close comfort here. Almost beelining him. Scissor doing what he can. I'm wondering even if he has Yamzu's
the play
reboot card. Yeah, what is exactly the play for Rise? And right now it does look like he's going to try to either use those zip lines to try to get across or to continue to build to the top to where he can kind of glide his way in towards zone. And that way he doesn't have to go down the mountain, then back up the mountain into the zone to where you see a lot of the teams positioned on the edge.
He is going to be a floating target, so we'll see how that ends up playing out.
Good luck to him.
On the other side, Acorn and Cold making that ground rotate here, saying, nope, we're not trying to do any kind of that floating business. We're moving old school style here, straight up the mountain, right around the outskirts, keeping it textbook.
There, G, just a couple peak shots. I feel like the slow bursts with the MK Alpha, which means the possibility of the scope salvo augment. You sacrifice the rate of fire as Rise and Yamzo go down. That's a big fall.
Before the big placement as well.
Yeah, before any placement at all. They fall from grace. But for them, they've also been known as a second day team. So hopefully they can kind of build up the confidence, have that mental toughness, so that way they have the bounce back opportunity as Clix and Epic will. Once again, finding a little bit of those struggles, and I feel like that's been the thing for Clix and Epicwell almost all season long. No matter how well they've been performing, it's the storm surge. They've been struggling to figure out consistency where they're going to get that surge from.
Meanwhile, Rokane showing us exactly how he's going to get his tags. Mammoth, Pistol, and big tags here. Look at the points. 185 for Yamzo and Rise when he falls. Booga and Threats are right on the heels at 175, and the competition is extremely close there from 2nd through 5th. So we know there's going to be some shakeups up at the top. That big fall. There's just one more game for Yamzo and Rise here before the day concludes, before they have to hit the drawing board. So no room now to make any more errors if you want to stay inside that top 10 comfortably or ride to the grands. Ride to the championship.
Go there, gang.
No worries for them. Just don't need to go down making any risky peaks.
Me and this dude need to be on the same team.
So close by. They've been so flexible, very adaptive in their game plan up until this point.
Amps still out. They have
Paper and Muzz. I just saw one of them down moments ago. And the thing that makes this zone hard, you see that split right in the middle between the two mountains. The river flows right between, and that means
no way. You want to go get somebody
on that water, which makes the edge of the zone that much more stacked.
Looking like a red versus blue map right here. Now trying to go north though. Naughty Nets off to the left side there. All right, no one's nearby other than the guys that have that western position. That's definitely a closer rotate for them.
Yeah, the only thing that's tough for this team is even though there's less people on this side of the zone, the right side overall, they still have to cross over that water. And Ritual, they're trying to plan ahead, figure out how are we going to make this leap over the river? How are we going to make it with as least congestion, very little trouble?
Look at this. Bolts and Thoric say, hey, let's go to the dead side. Let's try that. They're actually doing the opposite of what we would have thought. They're going all the way around here. But I think, yeah, I was going to say, reality's going to set in. That's not going to give them runway behind the island. They're going to have to go right through it. And it ends up working? Question mark? I think it's good.
Yeah, this could be good because while the players in front of them, they're going to have to use their mats. They're going to have to use their resource. They can just climb on top as Cold goes down. Acorn is at least getting a huge trade. Using the Mammoth toe tag Zookies. A great play by Acorn once again, showing how tough he actually is as a player. Even behind a slurp. Hesitating momentarily, trying to figure out what it is going to be, but doesn't have time to backtrack. He knows he has to go to the zone, and the longer he waits, the harder it's going to be for him to find any bit of safety, because all the teams are already going to beat him there.
And he just gets that last little bit of sprint burst just in time to push him inside here. He will have to stop and heal again for just a moment, but it's okay. He's got plenty of time here. He will be able to make it.
Hey, bro, after this, go to lobby game.
He's fighting for it. Baka and Pars find the high ground. The rotates work out for them. Bugha finds Larson. So this is all in exchange for threats as the save comes through. Big heals here as well. Are they going to burn through it? Let's find out.
Well, already one slurp is popped on threats. All he needs is time. Kind of let it set in.
Look at this.
Bugha has all that loot that they just found.
Mats don't look too good here.
Yeah. And the thing is about that loot, they already have a good loadout, so you see them not picking up much. They're looking exactly for what you just said. The mats, the resources, very, very minimal. All they kind of got was a little bit of siphon mats, which isn't much, but for them, it's something that they can use. Bach and Pars, they have the high ground. Reet and Ritual, they have the front of that low ground. They're trying to make that job and their journey easy because they know it is going to continue to move up the mountain.
Let's watch it. Pars, Baka starting to cut across here. 3 Elans, high ground, but coming through the zone to connect. A lot of damage taken there. Meanwhile, Acorn on the low ground here. 1 material left. Okay, time to get inside these enemy builds. That's a tart. Jackson's in a fight here. The timing didn't look too good. He sees them looking backwards, has to back out there. Smart play, great positioning here, but it's all enemies everywhere, all layers. He continues to shift and fight. How's he still up right now?
He's daring anybody to challenge him, but he finally had it. Bugha and Threats seemingly like they've stolen away the high ground from Bach and Pars. Perfect timing for that one to come to fruition. Agers gets knocked into the feed. If Kanata is still alive, they'll keep the consistency streak alive. That one has just been cursed. It wasn't my fault, but at least they get themselves another top 15.
Still a great game. Falling in 11 is nothing to overlook, especially when you're in the lead like this. So they're just going right now. Cooper's going to find Sphinx. Huge points there. A top 10 as well. Solidified now. Enpen and Bila are in the mix here. This is their chance to start rocking their way up the standings. Bugha, Threats looking to close it up as well. Nicely done there, but the trade comes through, and Pars finishes things up. Meanwhile, Threats here now.
It just wasn't enough for them. They wanted to finish the job down below. Threat sees a couple players moving nearby, but he has to be very, very careful the choice he takes, because as soon as he makes the decision, he gets taken down overall. Batman Bugha feeling the pressure as a solo. He lost Rapid not too long ago. But there is a couple other solos left in the lobby as well, so he isn't the only one feeling this pressure.
Ritual and Reet have the high ground here. This is all top 10 teams right now. Everyone really fighting for it. That's actually perfect if you're inside the upper bracket here. You really want to float, right? Rise that tide. See it. Nasif on the low ground getting a little bit of pressure up top. That could be a big disruption. Not sure what the material count situation is looking like for Reed here, but probably dire. They're getting really close here. Just above the layer right now, trying to suffocate them out here on the low ground. Everyone ends up committing here. They say, hey, let's go for it. There's a lot of points here. Enpen now by himself.
There's no heals. There's no HP. All he has is shield, which isn't really going to do him justice here in the end game. He finally makes his way in towards zone. With the pressure of the low ground, they're trying to drop him into the palm of the hands and only has 4 HP left. The only solo left into our top 3 against Jackson J, TK, and Reet and Ritual, who have been seemingly the kings on top of the mountain for so long.
Finally now, Jackson and Morales, or TK here, finally found themselves a little something to work with. But it's 3 elims and a second so far. They will have to go out to the zone to go and run up. Rhea and Ritual don't have material, so they're just working off the land here. This could be everything, but the great tag there onto Jackson to take him out. They don't see where TK is. He's actually full confused, and finally they spot him out. Reek falls first. Ritual comes through, though. He doesn't choke out and wins the game.
Yeah, looking very, very scary there for a split second, but then I realized Ritual is him, especially the way he has been playing lately. Finally, with a big victory royale here in the finals, he's living up to that reputation.
It's really good to see Reet, who's, of course, amassed up so many W's under his belt, pick up Rituals and give him a shot to prove himself. And take a look here. Ritual so graciously tries to support Reet in the moment there, but instead says, "Help, I'll go ahead and win this one out." And they take game number 5. Well played for the boys here to go ahead and close that one up.
Yeah, and it's only a wonder who is on the top of the leaderboard, who is on the bottom of the leaderboard, and who needs a phenomenal Game 6. I'm going to go through it for one last time to see who is positioned where on the leaderboard.
Well, Kelly here is a fan. She said Reet at the very start of the show. I want to see them perform well. I'd love to see them go to global championships. I'd even love to see them walk away with active champions. And right now, after this game, Kelly, is this enough? Are you satisfied?
I'm pretty happy right now. And you heard MDF said that Reed is an incredibly accomplished player, but we knew him as this kind of uncontrollable W key player. And I don't know if it's due to Queasy's coaching or if just Reed has kind of evolved as a player over the years, but he is playing so reserved compared to what we used to see.
Well, and the funny thing is, I asked Ritual, like, what is going to be the biggest challenge for him today? And he said not trying to W key everybody. So it's not just Reed, it is both the players in the duo trying to restrain themselves. So it could be the coaching, it could be that they've realized how to play the game to be successful long term. Because if you're just jumping in boxes, eventually someone's going to clap back too hard.
And I think a part of their success was watching when to take high ground in this game. We saw Baka and Paris take it pretty early on, and then you turn around, you look back around zone 10, and there is Re and Ritual. They got really lucky because they were getting low on builds, but luckily that zone was pulling back over builds already there. And then of course they had that high hill at the very end, so even though that second place team was on the low ground, it did a pretty good job. It came down to a 1v1. It just eventually worked for the way for Ritual and Reed.
Yeah, we've seen them
Who is
kind of
Son
contest
Goku
height in previous
Brian?
games so far, right? So they have a clear agenda here. Let's contest height. Let's make sure that this isn't free, or let's take it for ourselves. Something I want to see here is the standings. Only one game left here to go on day number 1 of Grand Finals. This will dictate how we look going into tomorrow's 6 games. Aegis and Kanata, in case you just tuned in, you missed out. Let me see, 346, that seems a lot higher than 225. Yes, they still have this massive, over 100-point lead of everyone else, but falling in that last game in an 11th place, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does give everyone else just that tiny little bit of leeway to say, okay, we're going to try and catch up.
You
It's still
suck.
early. We
Get
have
better
so
at the
many
game.
games to be played, and we're
No
starting to
one
see
likes
teams
you.
shoot up the leaderboard. I mean,